যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রানলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে।
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. Today we have a fascinating guest with us, Mr. Prince Mathews Thomas, author, journalist with about 20 years of experience writing about the corporate world, the business world, and we, as pretty much fans of capitalism in this channel, are going to have a gala time listening to Sir talk about his latest book on about the company called SIS. You all probably have heard of it. They are mostly known for providing security, but they have many other businesses as well. So thanks a lot for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for giving time and having me on your platform.
So guys, this is the book, by the way. The link is given in the description box. I hope you all buy the book and read a fascinating story about how this company came about. Sir, I have many questions to ask on this book, on this fascinating tale you've weaved around this company. But firstly, sir, how did this company come about in the 70s when business was so looked down upon? It was practically discriminated upon. Businessmen were almost looked down upon as lower caste Shudras and stuff. From that evil scenario, how did this company come about? How did this survive? And how did this company become so successful?
Yeah, 1970s were not the time for entrepreneurship and for people to set up businesses. India mostly had a very socialist philosophy-led economy and governance. And anything to do with earning profits was looked down. And it was like a bad word, profits, to make profits. And that's why it is very unlike what we see today. There were no startups. There were few businesses who did business by getting licenses. And we have heard of license Raj. It was very difficult to set up a business, even difficult to expand business, or if you want to go beyond a market or start a new product, or if you want to export to a country. So those are very different times. So that's why it's very unusual that you have a company almost on a startup mode from 1975 that came up. And it was accidental. You talked about SIS. SIS was founded by Ravindra Kishore Sinha. He was a very normal person, an average person. He hailed from Patna. He had done his graduation and he had become a journalist. He used to write about politics, about city affairs. He also became a war reporter because that was around the time when the Bangladesh war happened and India intervened. And he covered that. He was among the few people who went from Bihar to cover that. And he was beginning to be well known as a journalist, as a political reporter. But that was when he lost his job. And after he lost his job, he went to JP Jayaprakash Narayan, who was a very, very well-known, well-regarded political figure of the time. And Ravindra Kishore had known JP for a long time because he used to write on politics. He had been in close conversation with JP, and both of them shared a relationship that of like a mentor and a mentoree.
I see.
So when he lost his job, he went to JP, and JP said, "Okay, you lost your job. Why don't you do one thing now that you have a free time? There are a lot of retired army people who are coming to me who need job because it's very difficult to find jobs for them. Why don't you help them get employment?" So it was this simple suggestion that led Ravindra Kishore to start helping these retired army personnel get jobs. That was the seed to SIS. Now, because you are providing a job, uh, you are engaging with army on the one side, the army retired personnel, and on the other side, you're also engaging with companies who are providing employment, for
Yeah.
which you needed some formal setup, which also meant that you needed to follow local labor laws, local legislation, setting up. So you needed a formal setup to do this, and it's just for that purpose he set up a company, which he called SIS, Security and Intelligence Services. But he had no inclination or an objective or an aim to make money or make a big business out of it. His motive was, like JP had suggested, to help these people get employment. It just so happened that organically over time, because he wanted to do his work well in the best way possible, there was a formal setup. He needed people, so he recruited people. So slowly it took the form of a company. But it almost started like a setup, like a startup of today's. It was he worked out of his house. His house was both his office and both office and his residence in Patna. And he started small with and he used to hold recruitment drives right in front of the lawn of his house. So it was a very, very informal setup. So that's how it came about. It just so happened, like I said, because he like he was very from a very normal middle class family. His father worked in the Bihar Assembly, and his mother was a homemaker. So he was not from a business family. He had not done any business course, and he didn't have any money to start a business. It just so happened that
Right.
security business is almost like a neighborhood business. Anyone can start it. He started thinking that he'll help these retired army personnel get jobs. So that's how it started in a very accidental way. So you can almost call him an accidental entrepreneur.
Right. And the other extremely fascinating thing I found out from the book was how there's almost pretty much no union bazi in that company, and no one even wants to do that. No one feels like doing it. How does that happen?
Well, that's a very interesting aspect about SIS, and for that you need to look a bit into the history of SIS. Now, in 1975, Ramdra Kishore set up SIS. In the by early 1980s, he realized that he needed something to train his people. Now, the initial places where the SIS personnel would go was mines, factories, industries, and these were in the not in cities but outside cities in the interiors. But it also happened that slowly, as he expanded, he also got contracts in cities, in office complexes, where the requirement of a guard is very different from from a mine or a industry place. So
Yeah.
he realized that he needed to train these people. And that's why he set up an training academy in 1984, which was the first of its kind for a security company in India. Today, it looks, feels, sounds like a very normal thing to train
Yeah.
people, but in the
Yeah.
1980s, it was unheard of, especially for a security industry. And he set that up, and then that was for the non-officer cadre. In another couple of years, he started a training program for officer cadre. And the crux of this training, while he trained them to acquire skills needed as a guard job, which means that you should be physically fit, You should be able to, have discipline to work for 8 to 12 hours. But also at the same time, you should have enough communication skill to engage with people, to read documents, have minimum proficiency in reading English. So those requirements were there. At the same time, he had a very, very close connect with his people. So he would go to these training academies, stay with them, spend time with them. He would also sleep in the tents, or there was a house for him. He would cook for them, and he would eat meals with them. And even after they graduated from the training institute, this connect that Ravindra Kishore had with his people continued. He would go and travel to the sites where these guys were deployed or were posted. And again, there he would live with them, ask them about their families, get feedback from them, how their working condition was, improve things, and keep training them. So he had a very, very close connect with these people, and they also had full freedom to give their feedback to Ravindra Kishore. Years later, when the time came, then there was a cell phone or a mobile phone. Anyone in SIS, right from the guard upwards, had Ravindra Kishore's number. So they could call him up, they could tell him what problem they are facing or any feedback they had to give. And Ravindra Kishore would make note of it or ask his people to take note of it, and they would get back and make sure that the feedback is taken, and also if there any complaint, that is addressed. So he would say that when I am there, what is the need for a labor union? Because the people have direct access to me and the rest of the leadership. And if you see, labor union has always come up in places where there is no direct communication between the employees and the employer.
Okay.
That's why you need an intervention of a labor union. But here, the whole concept was turned on its head by Ravindra Kishore by saying that I have direct connect with my people. They can call me and connect with me and my leadership team anytime. There was no need for a labor union. And that's what happened. Through the course of writing this book, I spoke to a lot of people, had more than 50 interviews with people who have worked in SIS for more than 30 years. And this is the feel I have felt, because many of them today are in the post of president, vice president, and many of them started right at the guard level or at the at the most junior level, and they grew up. So this is the kind of culture that Ravindra Kishore built in SIS, and he calls it a family culture, which sounds good, but I think he also put it in practice. And one last thing I wanted to mention is that it also helped that he had an elephantine memory. If he would meet a guard, he would meet a guard today. He would ask the guard about his children, about his wife, parents, sisters, siblings. 6 months later, he would meet the same person. He would know the person's name, his family member's name, and he would inquire about them. So this connect, he was a very natural people's person. So he had this direct connect with people, and people appreciated that the owner, the promoter of the company is taking the effort to not just talk to me. He remembers my name, my family member's name, and he meaningfully and purposefully inquires about my family. So over the years, this confidence, this connect was built between the leadership and the employees on the ground. And that's one reason why SIS never had a labor union problem. In later years, SIS acquired companies which had labor unions, but once they acquired those companies, they were able to resolve labor union problems there also. So it has quite a clean record when it comes to industrial relation or labor relations, and unique record for a security company.
Yeah, that sounds very miraculous and almost too good to be true. And I'm sure as an author journalist, you would like to be the dispassionate observer here. But I would like some of your thoughts as well, because after all, it's a podcasting world. You are as much the product as the product you are selling. So tell me, from what the stuff you learned during the course of your researching this book, what can other companies replicate or learn from SIS and handle unions better? Because I personally would be in favor of banning unions altogether, but I don't think Indian society is ready for that. How to solve the union-bazi problem of the entire country, learning from SIS?
See, some of the things that SIS did was, even today, security is a very unorganized industry. There are very few companies like SIS which have been able to scale, go beyond their home market, expand in India internationally, and have a professional setup. So they are kind of an organized setup. They follow labor rules. They give minimum wages to their people. They give incentives. There is provident. There is health. There is insurance. There were instances during COVID where SIS employees fell ill or they passed away, or even otherwise. Whenever the SIS employees, there were health issues or there were problem in their family, SIS has made sure that they've been there to help. For instance, in during COVID, SIS itself started a drive to immunize its employees and their families. Two rounds. They set up a fund which gave them money to buy, which gave them advance salary, part of the salary advance, so that they could buy daily rations in advance, because everyone was doing that because you needed to buy things in bulk. Or they set up a fund which gave them 10,000 rupees the moment they fell sick, because if they are out of work, they are losing wages. So to make up for that, 10,000 rupees was given to each one who was infected. Not only that, we all are aware that during COVID, many companies sent their employees on unpaid leave, leave without pay. There were salary cuts, and many of people even fired employees, many companies, because they just couldn't
Right.
do.
Yeah.
SIS was one of the few companies which not only it didn't fire anyone, there was no salary cuts. There were no, there was no one was sent home saying that you are on unpaid leave. So things like this. This is a very recent phenomenon, about 5-7 years ago. I mean, when COVID happened. But this kind of a culture has been there for the last 50 years. And this, I think, it's not just Ravindra Kishore who says that companies should think about employees first and then anyone else, because it's a very nice thing to say.
Right.
But what I have seen in my conversations and understood is that SIS had found a way to really do this meaningfully. And they understood this was also important for the business. It was not just altruistic thing,
Yes.
because the security guard is their main product.
Yeah.
For them, the guard is the product. The guard is the product that engages with their customer. So they understood that they had to keep this product, train it, upskill it, use technology as much as possible to make the product more productive. And they also understood that this family culture and what you call the founder's mentality is also important for a guard to have, to work properly, to be more productive, not just for the company, but for the client. Eventually, all this will come to benefit SIS,
Right.
But there is, in doing this good, there is also that SIS also benefits. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
And that's why I say that doing social good is almost like the centerpiece of SIS's business model, which is very unique for any business. So that, I think, is the reason why nowadays we are having so much of debate about startups, especially the quick commerce delivery guys, about
Yeah.
how they employ delivery partners and they are not given any incentives, or there are no security system for them, no insurance. It's amazing that 50 years ago, or the last 50 years, SIS has been, one, it is very conscious about the fact that the guards are its main product. It's also made sure that it has things in its place where it takes care of these people. And they have also reciprocated to the company very equally. Yeah. So I think that is the understanding and the maturity that the ownership at SIS had about people. I think that's something that many companies can learn from. Yeah.
Their handling of the lockdown days reminds me of The only other instance I can think of is Dana White, the head of the combat sports company called UFC. They were also the ones who did not have to fire anyone, and the people were pretty happy there. I wonder what their secrets were. They seem to be pretty similar. What I'm wondering is, a lot of the stuff you're describing that SIS did or has done over the years are basically things that today the government kind of forces the companies to do through CSR. So they did not need a CSR to do these things. So are the other companies just run by bad people and selfish people? Why aren't they getting this fact about the benefits of CSR type things that can benefit their company as well?
Yeah, it's a very larger, a very broad question about, what do you, where, where companies talk about stakeholders, whom all do you count as stakeholders? If the company is listed, they say shareholders are stakeholders, the investors are stakeholders. What about customers and employees? If it's a privately listed company, one could say the only stakeholder is the owner, the promoter. There is no investor, there's no shareholder. Customer is there. If it is a B2B business, customer is institutional, then that line gets blurred. Employees, do you count employees as your core stakeholder? I mean, that is a question that companies have to answer. And if they answer in affirmative and if they are serious about it and it's not just rhetoric, then I think the whole approach towards employee engagement changes. It's something that SIS is not a company which employs just hundreds or thousands of people. It employs 3 lakh people. It is among the top 5 private employers in the country, right after TCS, Infosys, and Reliance. So the fact that a company which is as big as this, which today has a turnover of 14,000 crore, has been able to formalize this and use technology to also kind of improve the productivity of its employees. I think there are many things that SIS has done which has helped it. I also have to mention that it doesn't mean that it was always good. There were instances in the past where SIS ran out of money. It didn't have money to pay its employees. I've heard that for 2-3 months together, SIS wouldn't have money to pay its employees. So it's a company that has seen those kind of days also. But in the last 10, 15, 20 years, it's been able to make a transition towards a much more solid cash positive business, which has helped it also make things like, having so now within a specific date of the month, people get the salaries, which was very unusual, or some till about 20 years ago. What I'm trying to say is that if your approach towards the employees changes and if you kind of define how important they are for your business, and if their welfare actually also matters to the bottom line of your balance sheet or your profit or loss account, if you have that kind of a approach towards business, then your engagement with your employees also will change. Which Ravindra Kishore and then his son Rituraj Sinha very much understood that the well-being of the company is directly connected to the well-being of their employees. There was no question about that. So I think that's one big difference in case of SIS. Of course, we have to also admit that SIS business is such that people are very important. It doesn't have anything else to sell. It is selling its people as a service, as a product. So they needed to take extra care. Yeah.
And he appointed his successors at the right time. He got his son into it and his friend as well.
Yeah.
Was that simply humility or just sharp business acumen?
It was surely not humility because Ravindra Kishore had, apart from his corporate business career or this entrepreneurship that he had, Ravindra Kishore was also a very social person, and he also was very interested in politics. So by 2000, when SIS was about 25 crore company, it had a revenue of 25 crore. This Ravindra Kishore really wanted to spend more time on his public life, in his public life. But he also couldn't leave SIS just like that. His son Rituraj was still in college, so he's too young to run a company. And he also wanted a person whom he could trust. At the same time, has enough experience in the corporate world to lead SIS because 2000 India was changing, the world was changing, technology was evolving very fast. For SIS, the competition had come in. Group 4S, which is the world's largest security company, was already present in India and was at the time, around that time, it was taking away clients from SIS. So SIS needed a very, very thorough professional to lead it. And second, so one, it needed to be someone whom Ravindra Kishore could trust. Second, it had to be a very good professional with sound experience. Third, he also wanted someone who could mentor Rituraj. He didn't want to do it directly because he understood a father-son relationship is different from a chairman and
Yeah.
relationship with his son in a professional position. There sometimes you can have differences of opinion, which could lead to things getting worse, and we have seen a lot of instances of that happening. So
Yeah.
he had that maturity. You can say it's a foresightedness, or you can call just his entrepreneurial instinct. So his search for someone, stopped at Uday Singh. Uday Singh was someone whom he had known from his childhood, and even as Ravindra Kishore was running SIS, Uday Singh had kind of had a very successful corporate life. He had held really senior executive, chief executive roles in Indian and multinational companies, but he was not from a security industry. So when Ravindra Kishore asked him, Uday Singh's first instinct was to say no because he didn't know anything about security industry. But I think through engaging and communication between the two of them, they came to an agreement, and it helped that Ravindra Kishore told Uday Singh that you have full freedom to run the business. I won't intervene. And he was true to that promise that he gave to Uday Singh.
Right.
And that was, in today's jargon that we use, it was a pivot for SIS because from 2000 you can see that SIS grew, multiple times. It was a 25 crore company. Today it is 14,000 crores. So the growth has been exponential. Yeah. So I think that separation from ownership and executive role, it's a very rare thing to do. Ravindra Kishore was not a frontline entrepreneur. He was not a Ambani or a Birla or a Tata. But he had that understanding that he had to separate his interest from the interest of the company. So that was a very, very rare and unique thing. Yeah.
Right. I was about to get to that question only. A random Bihari war journalist with no MBA degree builds this company. Is he an extraordinary man? Because you argue against it, of course. You say his son has himself said that he's an ordinary man doing extraordinary things. But how is that even possible? Otherwise, there would be more people from Bihar doing stuff like this. What is stopping other Biharis from doing such things?
Well, I don't know what is stopping other Biharis from doing something like this, but I think Ravindra Kishore Sinha from his childhood had the ability to hear and listen and understand. I think that is a very big quality to have. And yes, he didn't have any MBA degree. He didn't come from a business family, but I think what worked in his favor was that he wanted to do everything that would make SIS successful. And if someone gave him an idea, he was always open to listen to it. He never said no. There was no ego. If he didn't understand something, he would go and approach someone. For instance, he would go to all security conferences in India, and after a while, he started going overseas because he wanted to learn and pick up best practices. So So that admission that I am not the guy who's the most knowledgeable, but I need people around me who are probably smarter than me, or I should go and listen to other people. That is
I see.
something made was marked him is kind of a different from others. And second,
Right.
like I said, if someone gave him an idea or suggested an idea, he was very open to it. For instance,
Hmm.
someone told him about computers, and this was the
Hmm.
1980s, and computers. I mean, very few people had seen a computer in front of them,
Yeah.
but SIS was among the first countries and probably the first security company in India to introduce computers, and this was in the 1980s. So,
Hmm.
and he understood, because he understood the importance of computers, because he understood the importance of conserving data, of
Hmm.
having data in your hand, or using computers to be more efficient operationally. Same
Hmm.
thing with something like IS with the ERP, or all the other corporate softwares that we have. He was among the first ones to implement all of these in SIS. So I think he had that innate ability to understand what his business requires to grow and to stabilize. There are many security companies which close down also, but SIS is among the few one which has managed to survive and also grow in a manner
Hmm.
that it has. Yeah.
Hmm. What is the first family of SIS's thoughts on ease of doing business in India and how they have seen it evolve since the 90s and till now, and what more do they think can be done to further make ease of doing business?
I mean, it's a question that is best answered by them, because I can't speak for them. But what I can understand, what I could see is that uh, getting finance for SIS was not easy, uh,
Hmm.
because you see, they don't have any fixed asset. When
Hmm.
companies take loan, they can take a loan against a fixed asset, but SIS didn't have any, and
Hmm.
they always had a problem getting financing from banks, and it took a long time
Right.
for Ravindra Kishore to build the confidence of banks that he is there to stay, his
Yeah.
business is not going to fold up,
Hmm.
and over the years, and it took time, probably took 20 years for him to
Hmm.
build that confidence among lenders like State Bank of India and others.
Hmm.
Financing, still when Rituraj joined, he understood finance is very important, and availability of fund is very important to expand the business. But
Right.
he would approach banks, investors, PE guys, HNIs, but everyone would turn him down because no one had.
Right.
And this is in the early 2000s, because very few people had heard of a security company. They didn't understand security business, and they didn't see any much. They didn't understand it, and they didn't know how it's going to grow well enough. So there
Hmm.
were many instances where Rituraj he never got appointment. If he got appointment, he would reach the meeting place, and he would be shown the door. The people would refuse
I
to
see.
meet him. So
Hmm.
there were a lot of challenges that both Ravindra Kishore and Rituraj faced. It is in over these so many years that they've been able to convince bankers, and later on, P investors and other HNIs about SIS and the strength of the business. But it's not been easy. So I think one big uh, today, funding seems to be coming very easy. Any startup is able to raise funds. Every day in newspapers you get.
Hmm.
But SIS, even 20 years ago, it was very tough to raise funds. So I think that was one thing that really marked them. And I think, is there any way to ease funding for medium
Hmm.
and small scale industry enterprises? I think that is very helpful. And I think the government also over the years has acknowledged this and made things easier for these smaller companies to take finance. But I think security companies are especially at a disadvantage. Like I said, they don't have a fixed asset, so for them to raise funds is even more troublesome. Yeah.
Hmm. Sir, you did touch upon this in the beginning, but please elaborate on these two instances because this is a very fascinating part in the book again. How did they handle demonetization and how did they handle the lockdown era?
Yeah, both were really big challenges for SIS. Now, when
Hmm.
demonetization happened, by then SIS had started this other business, which is cash management. And
Hmm.
in the early days, cash management was all about going to the ATM, filling the cassettes which are there with the currencies,
Yeah.
making sure that area is secure,
Hmm.
and the cash is safe, and then transport money, that cash from the bank to the ATM, or things like that.
Hmm.
Uh, by the time demonetization happened, SIS was already among the top two or three players in cash management. And
Hmm.
Rituraj Sinha was, I think he was a member in FICCI for the cash management industry. So
Hmm.
when demonetization happened, on that very night, Rituraj got a call from finance ministry asking if he was SIS promoter and if he was the main representative of the industry also. From that
Hmm.
conversation, they created a war room in Mumbai,
Hmm.
which consisted of RBI people, which consisted of other players in the cash management industry, and all of them had this tough task in their hands because in demonetization, the 500 rupee and 2000 currencies were banned. So first they
Hmm.
had to take all these currencies out of the cassette of and all the ATMs.
Hmm.
The big challenge here was the banks themselves didn't have space for all these currencies, all this money.
Yeah.
So there was a so they for I mean it was good. It was a providence that SIS had huge locker rooms, and
Hmm.
they used that to they had to swiftly empty the ATMs, take the cash back into their locker rooms, and then load new currency. Now, with the new currency, the problem was the new currency, if you see the dimensions are different from the earlier
Hmm.
one,
Yeah.
which meant that the cassette in the ATM also had to change. So
Oh,
there were
yes.
two things to be done. So one, they had to quickly, and you're talking about 20, 25, 30,000 ATMs across the country. So
Hmm.
one, you had to empty the cache. Second, you had to change the cassette and then load the cassette. And
Yeah.
remember, all this while there is public which doesn't have cash in hand. Their patience is going out. There were
Hmm.
instances where there was violence at ATMs
Yeah.
because people are standing in queue and the ATM runs out
Yes.
of money. Yeah, so a
Yeah.
lot of such instances. Though it was a very tough time for SIS and any other cash management company.
Hmm.
But because of this war room that they had created in Mumbai and the coordination that the industry had, and Rituraj played a pivotal role here in coordinating between Finance Ministry, RBI, and rest of the industry. They were actually able to do this whole exercise in a very short time. I don't remember the specific time period in which they finished it, but it was very quick. And that really helped making sure this demonetization exercise, which still impacted a lot of people, a lot of people suffered, many people died while standing on the queue. But
Yeah.
still, I think it was the effort from the cash management industry that actually helped kind of limiting the damage that demonetization as an exercise had, and then making sure that all these new currencies were available as soon as possible. So that was one. Yeah.
Hmm.
You have any follow-up questions on the demonetization? Otherwise, I can go to COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Go to COVID.
So, getting a call in between. Uh, See, demonetization struck at the heart of SIS's business
Yeah.
because when the lockdown was announced,
Hmm.
everyone stayed back at home, so
Hmm.
which meant that there were no schools, there were no buses, no trains, no flights, no malls, no offices, hospitals later on, but initially
Hmm.
some restrictions were there. So which meant that anywhere that SIS deployed its people, they all were
Hmm.
shut down. So there was no
Hmm.
requirement for SIS personnel.
Yeah.
So for Rituraj, it was a very difficult time because he, I'll just put this on silent. Because he needed to generate cash to pay his people. I think the number is about 400 crore for every 3 months of salary payment.
Okay.
Now if his people don't are not deployed in sites, which meant that the client is not going to pay, and Rituraj really was worried, thinking that what will happen to the business, from where will the cash come in, how do I pay my people. So
Hmm.
it was a really a break moment for him. Now, what helped was legislation.
Hmm.
SIS, along with other people from the security industry, they met the Home Ministry, and engaged with them, saying that security as a service, facility management as a service, and cash management as a service is an essential service,
Hmm.
because you need people at hospitals. It can't be just be doctors and nurses. You need people who are cleaning the hospital premises, who are guarding hospitals. Same thing with some offices that were open, or public places. So what happened was they convinced the Home Ministry to include security as an essential service, and
Hmm.
that actually was kind of a breakthrough in making sure that SIS people could travel freely, because you would know, you couldn't cross one district to the other
Yeah.
district without proper documents and things like that.
Hmm.
Now, when security became an essential service, it kind of helped SIS deploy its people again. Slowly, some of the offices started opening up, not all, but some of the public places, and SIS was able to put its people in all these sites, and that then changed the whole picture for the company. From a
Hmm.
from a from a from a moment where it felt as if the company is going to break down,
Yeah.
by the end of 2020, if you look at the financial numbers, SIS actually managed to grow its revenues. And this was mainly because of this thing where the services were listed under essential services. So
Hmm.
that was a quite a time for SIS and Rituraj and rest of the leadership there. But they
Hmm.
managed to survive and actually come out in a better shape than one would have
Hmm.
thought.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, sir, so they are pretty anti-fragile. Now, providing security in mining areas, that sounds like a complete mindfuck to begin with, because I mean, in those places, security guards probably need security guards of their own. So how do
Yeah.
they manage such a situation?
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
The security guards themselves are probably at threat all the time, because any random gunda can come about, one call to the MLA, and problems can escalate. So how do they handle those situations in those mining areas? And there are Maoists as well in those areas.
Yeah. So, and security, and these private security guards, they also can't handle guns, right? So it's not that they have gun with them and they can protect, or if it's needed, they can also use those guns.
Hmm.
So it was always a struggle for them, especially in the mines, because nearly every mine area has its own mafia. So you have to
Hmm.
deal with the mafia. You have to protect the mines from the prevent smuggling, engage with the uh, engage with engage with the owners, the police.
Hmm.
So there are a lot of things
Yeah.
to take care of, and there were many
Yeah.
instances in SIS's history where there were a lot of physical, violent clashes between mafia and SIS guards. There have been very many instances where they got injured got seriously injured. I'm not sure if anyone lost their life in these clashes, but things were pretty serious. Uh, and SIS people have gone out of their way to ensure that the interest of their clients have been ensured. I think in the book itself, I have documented three instances. One is the instance of DLF people, local residents versus DLF. One incident happened in Gurgaon. There was another instance down in Karnataka in the mines in Bellary, where the owner of a mine, who was a client of our SIS, was attacked by the mafia. What is important there, what they realize is that while they themselves can't alone face these violent attacks, what they did was to have a very, very good rapport with the local police and create a system where they could call up police, ask for help, that coordination was there and that engagement was there. These were some of the things that they did to ensure that they could do their work properly. And there are many instances of them also, all these truck movements that happen inside a mine and outside. A lot of smuggling happens in that area also, in that form also, when this transportation happens.
Yeah.
SIS people, because of the training that they get, like I mentioned, they have caught lot of smuggling instances where they have helped their clients, the owners of the mines, save a lot of money, and also catch the people who are responsible for the smuggling. So there were many instances like that. I think the main reason that they could do all this was the training, and this importance on training that Ravindra Kishore started right in the early years of SIS has actually paid off very well.
Why aren't they allowed to have guns?
Yeah, I think that is something with the regulation where, see, unlike the US, where right to arms is a fundamental right,
Yeah.
India, it's not like that. It's not a fundamental
Yeah.
right. I think you need
Yeah.
to have license and things like that. So I don't think private guards are allowed to carry firearms. It's only the law enforcement agencies, which are governed by the local and the central governments. They are the only ones by law who are allowed to use fire guns.
Can retired security personnel have licenses and then have guns if they get into such a job?
You're talking about army personnel.
Yeah, retired army personnel.
See, retired army personnel in their own personal capacity, they may have gun licenses and they may have firearms, but
Right.
I really doubt if they can use it if they are employed in a security agency. I don't think they can use that. Not
Wow.
as part of their work in a security company. I don't think so.
I see. So SIS does not provide any armed security, or do they have a separate section for that?
See, they have a lot of work they do which uses AI, machine learning, the latest in technology using cameras and drones and things like that. But I haven't come any instance in my conversations where they have used firearms. No.
I see. Don't the cash management people carry guns?
Cash management people, see the people who are even at the ATM, the security
Yeah.
people, they
Yeah.
don't have. But the
Yeah.
people who carrying the vans,
Yeah.
in the vans, they have. You're correct. Your
Yeah.
observation is right. The people who are in the vans, they carry. That comes under the cash management business. It must be having a separate
I
regulation for
see.
that.
I see.
But the security personnel as such, they don't.
Today, what percentage of their employees come from an army background?
Oh, I don't think there's any specific number to it, but in the early years it would have been more than 80%.
I
But
see.
now, because they have a very, very organized way of recruiting people, they have 22 training academies around the country now, and they can't depend on just army retired personnel for their requirement. So they
Yeah.
have very, very systematic form of recruitment which they do through the year. I think the number would be very, very low. I don't even think it would be 50% today.
I see. And do these retired army personnel ever face or suffer from any PTSD and stuff, which the American retired army personnel always seem to suffer from? Have SIS had to handle such
Sorry,
situations?
sir.
Have they go crazy and crazy from PTSD and try to shoot someone or kill someone? Those retired army personnel because of PTSD stuff.
Uh, I'm sorry, I am unaware of any such instance. It's very possible it may have happened, but nothing of this came in my conversations here.
Oh, nice. And sir, this will be the second last question because I want to discuss a little bit of your 2017 book as well, because that is a fascinating topic as well. Now,
Sure.
the last topic regarding this book is what do you think should be the message for young entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to learn from SIS? Let's say in 4 or 5 key points.
4 or 5 key points, yeah.
Yeah.
I am repeating myself, but I just want to underline
Yeah.
that Ravindra Kishore Sinha, when he started this business, it was not as if he understood that he had a product or that there was a market for his product, but over time he understood that he could do things that could make his business better than the others. What budding entrepreneurs should make note is that, one, do they have a product? If they have a product which is entirely new, very good. But if they are interested in a market which already has people, what is the product differentiation that they have? And what is the addressable market that their product has? I think these are two big areas where entrepreneurs have to have definite answer, and that's why I think even in all these startup tank programs, reality programs that you have, the idea and the potential and the scalability of your product or your idea is something that often the judges will ask these budding entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So that is something that you need to sort. I think other important thing is financing. Financing today is easier, but I think it's still especially once you scale. Getting to 10 crore, 20 crore, 30 crore today is I think is easy. Not very easy, but I think it's possible. But to scale beyond 40 crore, 50 crore, reach 100 or beyond that is where it becomes very difficult. So you also really need to understand what is the scalability of your product. And that's why I said the total addressable market of your product. You need to understand that too. And then it's about, like Randhir Kishore understood, having good people around you and creating proper systems and processes. As your organization becomes bigger and bigger, if you don't have proper systems or processes, your organization wouldn't be able to withhold or withstand the business that you are creating. It will collapse. So you need to build that also at the same time. I think that's what it is. And yeah, of course, keeping employees and customers at the center of your business, I think it's very important. Nowadays, we see a lot of instances where startup entrepreneurs, they start something, they sell, but there are a lot of question marks about the way they do their business. There's a lot of mis-selling happening. We know the case of Byju's in EdTech. There are many similar cases in some other industries also. That is something that should be avoided. Yeah.
Now, sir, your 2017 book, The Consolidators, was specifically on a very niche and interesting topic: how second generation entrepreneurs sort of rejuvenated their father's company. Now, how does that happen? What does it take in the father to let's say mentor the son in such a way, and what does it take in the sons or daughters to rejuvenate a company? And how do you think SIS did that job really well as well?
Yeah, if you look at corporate history, And if you look at family-owned businesses, how they have performed through the generation, you'll see that when the business comes to the second generation and goes to the third, the chances of a business surviving becomes less. There are very, very few companies in the world, around the world, who have survived beyond second, third generation, fourth generation.
Yeah.
We talk about Birla family, but the Aditya Birla part of the Birla family is the one which has been most successful. It is now
Yeah.
in its third, fourth generation. But there are many other cases, like we have seen in the case of Reliance, the Ambani family, Mafatlal family, Singhania family. There have been a lot of breakups and division of assets. The people have taken their cousins, their brothers, sisters to courts, even mother and father. So that's a very common thing if you don't do succession planning or if you don't plan the transition. My intention about doing this book was that many times our focus is always on the founder, because the
Yeah.
founder is the one who started the business, and very much so the founder deserves all the praise and the money, because for creating a successful business. The second generation actually has a tough task at its hand, because one, it will always be compared with the founder. They have to
Yeah.
first prove their mettle, and also then create and expand on the business that their father or mother created.
Yeah.
Uh, so my intention was to look at 7 of these second generation entrepreneurs who inherited the business from their fathers or mothers, but made it even bigger. So there was, the case of PVR, Ajay Bijli, who got only one screen. Out of one screen, he built India's largest multiplex chain. There was case of Oberoi Realty, where again, because Oberoi's father had started the real estate business, but he made the company which went on to become the most valued real estate company in India. Likewise, in the case of Park Hotels, Kalyan Jewelers, Radico Khaitan, and also SIS. So I think that is the basic idea that I wanted to look into, about how second generation entrepreneurs, what lessons we could derive from these second generation entrepreneurs on how to build a business that they inherited and how they scaled it. So it was the lessons from each one of them. Yeah.
So you are writing in a very fascinating niche, and I will be looking forward to reading more of your stuff. What are your plans for your next book?
Well, too early to say. I'm still kind of enjoying the post-publication time of the
Right.
SIS story.
Yeah.
But I surely plan to write. I'm quite fascinated with family businesses and business history, corporate history. I quite like the whole niche area of family businesses and this first, second, third generation stories. So hopefully, I will keep writing on these subjects. Yeah, that's what my plan is.
Okay. Thank you, sir, and best of luck for your future ventures.
Thanks so much for having me. It was delightful talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming on my podcast. Thank you, guys. See you in a little while. We'll come back with a live stream at 7:30. Thank you, guys. Bye, bye, sir.
যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গম পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে, তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রা নলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, আপন বুকে বুকের পাঁজর চালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো।